Amara Reynolds, a humble yet powerful black CEO of Reynolds Associates in Brookhaven, navigates a city rife with racial tensions and systemic prejudice. Despite her success and community efforts, she faces relentless harassment from Officer Daniels, who targets her company with false accusations and corruption. As protests escalate and media scrutiny intensifies, Amara battles both overt discrimination and subtle microaggressions, striving to protect her reputation and support her community. The mounting injustice and Daniels' relentless sabotage push Amara to the brink, igniting a fierce fight against entrenched racism and institutional bias. The sun had barely risen over the skyline of Brookhaven, casting a soft golden hue across the city's glass towers and bustling streets. The morning air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of freshly brewed coffee and the distant hum of traffic. In the heart of this thriving metropolis stood the grand edifice of Reynolds Associates, a testament to ambition and success. Inside, the atmosphere was calm, almost serene, as employees moved with purpose through their daily routines. Amara Reynolds walked through the revolving doors, her presence commanding, yet unassuming. At 42, she had built her empire from the ground up, transforming Reynolds Associates from a small legal firm into one of the most respected names in corporate law. Despite her wealth and influence, Amara maintained a humility that endeared her to her colleagues and clients alike. She dressed simply, today, in a tailored navy blazer and white blouse, eschewing the designer labels that adorned her office for a more modest appearance. Amara's office was on the 15th floor, offering a panoramic view of Brookhaven's sprawling landscape. She preferred this space not for its opulence, but for the tranquility it provided. The large windows allowed her to watch the city wake up, a ritual that grounded her amidst the pressures of her high-powered career. Her desk was organized meticulously, each item in its place, reflecting the disciplined mind behind her success. As she settled into her chair, Amara glanced at the stack of documents awaiting her attention. Her role as CEO was demanding, yet she approached each task with a calm determination. Today, however, there was an undercurrent of tension that even she couldn't ignore. The recent surge in racial tensions across the country had not spared Brookhaven. Protests had become a regular occurrence, and conversations about systemic racism were more prominent in boardrooms and coffee shops alike. Amara had always been a quiet force for change. She believed in leading by example, fostering an inclusive workplace, and using her resources to support community initiatives. Her office walls were adorned with photographs from charity events and community outreach programs, a subtle reminder of her commitment to making a difference beyond the confines of her office. The soft chime of her phone pulled Amara from her thoughts. She answered promptly, her voice steady and warm. "Amara Reynolds speaking." "Good morning, Amara. This is Marcus from the downtown diner." The voice on the other end greeted Marcus was a regular who owned one of the few family-run diners in Brookhaven. His establishment was a favorite among locals for its hearty breakfasts and welcoming atmosphere. "Good morning, Marcus. What can I do for you today?" "There's been an incident last night outside your office building. A group was protesting, and things got a little heated. I just wanted to let you know so you're aware." Amara felt a familiar knot tighten in her stomach. While she supported peaceful protests and dialogue, she was keenly aware of the fine line between demonstration and disruption. "Thank you for letting me know, Marcus. I appreciate you reaching out. Is everyone okay?" "There were some scuffles, but no serious injuries that I'm aware of, just a lot of shouting and a few broken windows. The police handled it swiftly, but I thought you should be informed." "I see. I'll make sure our security team is aware and address any concerns our employees might have. Thank you for keeping me informed." As she hung up, Amara took a deep breath, her mind racing through the possible implications of the incident. Brookhaven was a city of contrasts, glimmering wealth juxtaposed with pockets of deep-seated poverty and systemic inequality. Despite her success, Amara never forgot her roots. Growing up in a predominantly black neighborhood, she had witnessed firsthand the challenges her community faced. Her journey from those humble beginnings to the top echelons of corporate power was marked by perseverance and a steadfast commitment to uplifting others. Amara stood and walked over to the window, watching as the city below began to stir. Street vendors set up their stalls, early commuters hurried to their workplaces, and children laughed as they made their way to school. It was a vibrant tapestry of life, but beneath the surface lay tensions that threatened to unravel the fabric of the community. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock on her office door. It opened to reveal Elena Martinez, her trusted assistant, carrying a tablet and a concerned expression. "Morning, Amara. Do you have a minute?" Elena asked, stepping inside. "Of course, Elena. What's on your mind?" Elena handed over the tablet, which displayed a series of social media posts and news articles about the recent protests. "There's a lot of buzz online about the incident last night. Some are blaming the company for being insensitive, while others are defending your efforts to promote diversity and inclusion. It's getting a bit heated." Amara scrolled through the posts, her eyes narrowing at the mix of support and criticism. "We've always strived to be a positive force in the community, but I understand that perceptions can vary. We need to address this proactively." "I was thinking," Elena began, "perhaps we could host a town hall meeting, give people a platform to voice their concerns and share our initiatives. It might help bridge the gap between the company and the community." Amara nodded thoughtfully. "That's a good idea. Let's schedule one for next week. In the meantime, I'll reach out to our PR team to ensure our message is clear and supportive. We need to show that we're listening and committed to making meaningful changes." Elena smiled, a sense of relief evident in her demeanor. "I'll get started on the arrangements. Anything else you need?" "Not at the moment. Thank you, Elena." As Elena left, Amara leaned back in her chair, the weight of her responsibilities pressing down on her. Being in a position of power often felt isolating, especially when navigating the complexities of race and societal expectations. Despite her achievements, she frequently encountered subtle prejudices and biases that reminded her she was one of the few Black women in such a high-ranking role. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a message from her mentor, Dr. Harold Jenkins, a retired judge who had been instrumental in her career. The message read, "Thinking of you today, stay strong. Harold." Amara smiled softly. Touched by the unwavering support, she had always admired Harold's wisdom and integrity, traits she endeavored to embody in her own leadership. His guidance had helped her navigate numerous challenges, and his words provided solace in moments of doubt. Determined to maintain her composure, Amara rose from her desk and walked to the bookshelf lining her office walls. Among legal tomes and awards, a framed photograph caught her eye, one of her and Harold at a community outreach event years ago. It served as a reminder of her mission, to use her success as a platform for positive change. Just then, her security team entered her office, their expressions serious. "Amara, there's someone here to see you. Says it's urgent." Amara felt a flutter of unease. "Send them in, please." A few moments later, a man in his early 30s entered the room. He was impeccably dressed, exuding an air of confidence and authority. His presence was striking, yet there was a subtle humility in the way he carried himself. "Good morning, Ms. Reynolds," he greeted, extending a hand. "I'm Detective Marcus Lewis with the Brookhaven Police Department." Amara shook his hand, her curiosity piqued. "Detective Lewis, what can I do for you?" "Thank you for seeing me on such short notice," Marcus began, taking a seat across from her. "I'm here regarding the protest that took place last night outside your office." Amara nodded, recalling the earlier conversation with Marcus at the diner. "Yes, I'm aware. How can I help?" Marcus leaned forward, his expression earnest. "We've been reviewing the footage and eyewitness accounts, and we have reason to believe that the incident was more than just a routine protest. There were elements of intimidation and possible incitement that go beyond peaceful demonstration." Amara's heart skipped a beat. "Are you suggesting there were provocateurs trying to escalate the situation?" "That's one possibility," Marcus replied. "We're also considering if there was any inside influence, or if someone from your company might have had a hand in it. Given your prominence in the community, it's not out of the question that someone might see you as a target." Amara felt a chill run down her spine. "I assure you, Detective Lewis, Reynolds Associates has always been committed to fostering a positive relationship with the community. We support peaceful protests and advocate for constructive dialogue." "I understand that, Ms. Reynolds," Marcus said, nodding. "But our duty is to ensure that all incidents are thoroughly investigated, regardless of the parties involved. We're following up on some anonymous tips that suggest there might be more to this incident." Amara took a deep breath, maintaining her composure. I appreciate the thoroughness of your investigation. If there's anything you need from our end, please let me know. We're fully cooperative. Marcus studied her for a moment, perhaps sensing the tension beneath her calm exterior. Thank you, Ms. Reynolds. We may need to speak with some of your employees or review additional footage. I hope we can count on your assistance. Absolutely, Amara replied. Please, keep me informed of any developments. Our priority is to ensure the safety and well-being of our community. As Marcus stood to leave, Amara couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that settled in her chest. The idea that someone might target her or her company for their advocacy work was disconcerting. She trusted her team and her own integrity, but the shadows of systemic challenges and prejudices loomed large, reminding her that her position, while powerful, also made her a symbol, one that could attract both admiration and unwarranted scrutiny. Once Marcus departed, Amara sat back, her mind racing. She glanced around her office, the symbols of her success now feeling like a fortress, shielding her from yet another layer of societal complexities. She knew that being a trailblazer came with its own set of challenges, but she had always faced them head-on. Now, however, it seemed the very platform she had built to empower others was being questioned. Elena re-entered the office, sensing the shift in atmosphere. Everything all right, Amara? Amara offered a reassuring smile, though her eyes betrayed her concern. Yes, just another one of those days. Thank you for checking in. Elena hesitated for a moment before speaking. If there's anything you need, any support we can offer, please let me know. Amara reached out, placing a hand on Elena's shoulder. I appreciate that, Elena. We'll navigate this together, as always. As the day progressed, Amara couldn't help but reflect on the delicate balance she maintained between her public persona and her private values. She had worked tirelessly to dismantle barriers and create opportunities for those who had been historically marginalized. Yet, the very visibility that made her a beacon of hope also made her a target for those resistant to change. Lunchtime found Amara walking through the company's cafeteria, a modest space adorned with plants and artwork donated by local artists. The atmosphere was lively, filled with the chatter of employees from diverse backgrounds, all contributing to the vibrant tapestry of Reynolds Associates. She exchanged pleasantries with colleagues, her genuine interest in their lives a testament to her leadership style, one rooted in empathy and respect. As she sat down with her team, her phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Harold Jenkins. Remember, strength comes from within. You've got this. Harold. Amara felt a surge of gratitude. Harold's mentorship had been invaluable, guiding her through both professional and personal challenges. His wisdom was a steadying force, reminding her of the importance of staying true to her principles. Her meeting was brief but productive, addressing upcoming projects and ensuring that the community outreach programs were on track. Yet, beneath the surface, the unease from earlier lingered. Brookhaven was a city of opportunity, but it was also a city grappling with its own demons, racial disparities, economic divides, and the ever-present undercurrent of prejudice. As the afternoon sun began to wane, Amara found herself back in her office, preparing for the town hall meeting she had planned with Elena. The event was designed to foster open dialogue, a space where community members could voice their concerns and collaborate on solutions. She believed that transparency and communication were key to bridging gaps and building trust. Just as she was about to leave her office, the phone rang again. This time, it was a number she didn't recognize. She hesitated for a moment before answering, curiosity overcoming her initial caution. Hello, Amara Reynolds speaking. Ms. Reynolds, this is Officer Daniels from the Brookhaven Police Department, the voice on the other end stated. I'm calling to follow up on Detective Lewis's visit earlier today. Amara's pulse quickened slightly. Yes, I remember. How can I assist you, Officer Daniels? There's something else we need to discuss regarding the protest incident. We've come across some additional information that might be pertinent to our investigation. Amara felt a knot form in her stomach. What kind of information? We've identified a few individuals who were seen inciting the crowd, encouraging escalation. They seem to have ties to a local advocacy group. We're looking into their motives and any potential connections to your company's community initiatives. Amara took a deep breath, her mind racing through the implications. I assure you, our community initiatives are focused on positive change and support. If these individuals are misrepresenting our efforts, we need to address it immediately. Absolutely, Miss Reynolds. We'll keep you updated as we gather more details. In the meantime, if you have any information that could assist our investigation, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you, Officer Daniels. I appreciate your diligence in this matter. As she hung up, Amara felt the weight of the situation settle heavily upon her. The idea that someone might exploit her company's good intentions to further their own agenda was troubling. She glanced around her office, the symbols of her success now feeling like both a shield and a target. Elena entered shortly after, sensing the tension that had returned. Everything okay? Amara forced a smile, masking the turmoil within. Just more details on the incident we need to address. We're handling it. Elena nodded, her eyes reflecting understanding. If you need anything, don't hesitate to ask. As the day turned to evening, Brookhaven's lights began to twinkle against the twilight sky. Amara stood by her office window once more, watching the city transition from day to night. The challenges she faced were a constant reminder of the work that still needed to be done. Yet, her commitment to her community and her unwavering belief in the power of dialogue and understanding propelled her forward. In the quiet moments before nightfall, Amara reflected on her journey, the obstacles she had overcome, and the impact she had made. She knew that the path ahead would not be easy, but with the support of her team, her mentor, and her steadfast resolve, she was prepared to navigate the complexities of her role. Brookhaven was more than just a city to her. It was a community she was deeply invested in, and she was determined to continue being a force for positive change. As the first stars began to appear in the evening sky, Amara turned away from the window, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The foundation had been laid, and the next steps would determine the course of not only her company, but the community she so passionately served. As the days progressed, the tension surrounding the protest incident outside Reynolds Associates only seemed to intensify. Amara Reynolds found herself navigating a delicate balance between maintaining her company's reputation and addressing the growing concerns within the community. The upcoming town hall meeting was scheduled, and preparations were in full swing. Yet, beneath the surface, subtle tensions were beginning to surface, hinting at the systemic challenges that awaited her. One crisp Monday morning, Amara arrived at Reynolds Associates earlier than usual. The office was already humming with activity, employees bustling about with a sense of urgency. She walked through the reception area, exchanging warm greetings with her staff, her presence a beacon of calm amidst the undercurrent of unease. As she approached her office, her assistant, Elena, greeted her with a concerned look. "Good morning, Amara. Can I speak with you for a moment?" "Of course, Elena." "Come in," Amara replied, gesturing for her to take a seat. Elena handed her a tablet, displaying a series of emails and internal memos. "We've received several complaints from employees about increased scrutiny from the local authorities. Some feel targeted because of your position." Amara frowned, scrolling through the messages. "Targeted in what way?" "Specifically, there have been multiple visits from Officer Daniels. He's been questioning employees about their involvement in the protests and our company's community initiatives. Some feel it's intrusive and biased." Amara leaned back, absorbing the information. "This is concerning. Have we documented these interactions?" "Yes. I've compiled the reports and gathered statements from those who felt uncomfortable," Elena responded. "It seems like Officer Daniels is making it a point to associate our company with the unrest, perhaps to undermine our efforts." Amara's mind raced. Brookhaven was a city already grappling with deep-seated issues, and her company had always been a pillar of support for the community. If the police were turning against her, it could have far-reaching implications, not just for Reynolds Associates, but also for the community initiatives they spearheaded. "Thank you, Elena. We need to address this head-on. Schedule a meeting with our legal team and the PR department. We need a unified response." Elena nodded, a hint of relief crossing her features. "I'll get on it right away." Leaving her office, Amara made her way to the conference room, where her legal advisor, Laura Bennett, and the head of PR, James Carter, were already waiting. The room was spacious, with large windows offering another panoramic view of Brookhaven's skyline. The table was cluttered with documents, notes, and coffee cups, a testament to the late-night work sessions they had endured. "Thank you both for coming so quickly," Amara began, taking a seat at the head of the table. "Elena has brought some pressing issues to my attention regarding Officer Daniels' recent interactions with our employees." Laura, a sharp-minded woman with a no-nonsense attitude, adjusted her glasses and leaned forward. "From what I've seen, Officer Daniels is either overstepping his boundaries or has a personal vendetta against you, Amara. Either way, it's detrimental to both our company's reputation and the morale of our staff." James, a charismatic individual known for his strategic thinking, nodded in agreement. "From a PR standpoint, we need to control the narrative. If Officer Daniels is associating us with the protests in a negative light, we risk alienating both our employees and the community we support." Amara took a deep breath, her mind working swiftly. "What are our options?" Laura interjected. "We could file a formal complaint against Officer Daniels for harassment and misuse of authority. Additionally, we should consider reaching out to the community to reaffirm our commitment to peaceful dialogue and support." James added, "Simultaneously, we need to launch a PR campaign that highlights our community initiatives and addresses any misconceptions. Transparency is key here." Amara nodded thoughtfully. "I agree. Let's proceed with filing the complaint. Laura, can you handle the documentation and liaise with our legal team? James, start drafting the PR statements and coordinate with the media to ensure our message is clear and consistent." "As you wish," Laura and James replied in unison, their determination evident. The meeting concluded with a sense of purpose, but Amara couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a more significant challenge. As she left the conference room, her phone buzzed with another message. "Meeting with Councilman Harris at 3 p.m. important." She glanced at the screen, feeling a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Councilman Harris was a key figure in Brookhaven, known for his influential role in local politics and his stance on community issues. Their interactions had always been professional, but Amara wondered what urgent matter warranted a meeting. After a productive morning addressing the internal issues, Amara decided to visit Marcus at the downtown diner. It was one of her favorite spots, a place where she could unwind and observe the heartbeat of the community she so deeply cared about. The diner was already alive with the sounds of clinking plates and friendly chatter, a stark contrast to the high-stress environment of her office. As she entered, Marcus greeted her with a warm smile. "Amara, good to see you. What brings you here today?" She smiled in return, taking a seat at the counter. "Just needed a moment away from the office. How's everything going?" Marcus leaned forward, his expression turning serious. "I heard about the increased police presence around your building. It's unsettling. The community is divided, and some are starting to question your intentions, not that they've had any reason to doubt you." Amara sighed, stirring her coffee thoughtfully. "It's frustrating. We're trying to promote positive change, but it feels like we're constantly fighting against the tide of negativity." Marcus nodded sympathetically. "People are scared and confused. When tensions run high, it's easy for misunderstandings to escalate, but you've always been a beacon of hope, Amara. Don't let this deter you." She appreciated his words, feeling a sense of comfort in his presence. "Thank you, Marcus. We need to stay strong and keep pushing forward. The town hall meeting next week will be crucial." Just then, a young woman approached the counter, her demeanor wary. She was impeccably dressed, but her eyes held a hint of suspicion as they met Amara's. "Excuse me, are you Amara Reynolds?" Amara nodded, maintaining her composure. "Yes, I am. How can I help you?" The woman hesitated before speaking, her voice soft but edged with tension. "I'm Aisha, a community organizer. I wanted to discuss some concerns we have about the recent protests and the way they're being handled." Amara sensed the underlying unease in Aisha's words. "I'd be happy to hear your concerns. Maybe we can find a way to address them together." Aisha glanced around before lowering her voice. "It's not just about the protests. There's a growing sentiment that your company is too involved in local affairs, and some believe that Reynolds Associates is using its influence to sway outcomes in their favor. We've had whispers about favoritism and hidden agendas." Amara raised an eyebrow, taken aback by the accusation. "I assure you, our intentions have always been transparent. We support initiatives that benefit the community as a whole. If there are specific issues, I'd like to address them directly." Aisha looked unconvinced, her eyes darting nervously. "There's also talk about increased surveillance around your office. Some feel like they're being watched and judged based on their association with you or the company. Amara felt a surge of frustration. Surveillance is a standard security measure, not targeted at any specific group. We prioritize the safety of our employees and the community. Aisha sighed, her expression softening slightly. I want to believe that, Amara. I really do. But trust is fragile right now. The recent interactions with Officer Daniels have only fueled these fears. Amara placed a reassuring hand on Aisha's arm. I understand the concerns, and I'm committed to ensuring that our presence in the community is seen as supportive, not oppressive. Let's work together to rebuild that trust. Aisha nodded slowly, a glimmer of hope returning to her eyes. I appreciate your willingness to listen. It means a lot. As Aisha walked away, Amara felt a mix of relief and lingering tension. These conversations were essential, yet they highlighted the pervasive mistrust that still existed. She knew that addressing these concerns head-on was vital to maintaining the positive impact Reynolds Associates had strived to achieve. Later that afternoon, Amara attended the meeting with Councilman Harris. The councilman's office was located in an older part of Brookhaven, a contrast to the modernity of Reynolds Associates. His office was adorned with plaques and awards, showcasing his long-standing commitment to public service. Amara, thank you for coming. Councilman Harris greeted her warmly, shaking her hand firmly. I wanted to discuss the recent developments and see how we can support each other moving forward. Amara took a seat, her demeanor respectful, yet assertive. I appreciate your time, Councilman. The incident at the diner and the subsequent scrutiny from the police department have been challenging. I'm committed to fostering a positive relationship between our company and the community. Harris nodded thoughtfully. I understand, and I commend your efforts. However, there are underlying issues that need to be addressed. Some community members feel that despite your success, there's a disconnect. They're wary of powerful figures like yourself, fearing that your influence could overshadow their voices. Amara leaned forward, her eyes meeting his. I hear those concerns, and I want to bridge that gap. That's why we're organizing the town hall meeting, to provide a platform for open dialogue and collaboration. I believe that by working together, we can address these fears and create meaningful change. Harris smiled, a genuine expression of support. That's a commendable approach. I can help facilitate conversations and ensure that diverse voices are heard. Additionally, if there are any legislative measures we can advocate for to promote transparency and accountability, I'm on board. Amara felt a sense of relief wash over her. Thank you, Councilman. Your support is invaluable. Together, we can make Brookhaven a model of unity and progress. As she left his office, Amara felt a renewed sense of purpose. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but with allies like Councilman Harris and the support of her team, she felt better equipped to navigate the complexities of her role. That evening, Amara returned to her apartment, the small yet comfortable space, a sanctuary from the demands of her professional life. She sat by the window, gazing out at the city lights that twinkled like distant stars. The events of the day weighed heavily on her, but she refused to let frustration overshadow her commitment to positive change. Her phone buzzed with another message from Harold Jenkins. Remember, Amara, true strength lies in resilience and compassion. Keep pushing forward. Harold. She smiled softly, feeling the warmth of his unwavering support. Harold had been a guiding light throughout her journey, offering wisdom and encouragement during moments of doubt. His words were a balm to her weary spirit, reminding her of the importance of staying true to her values. As she reflected on the day's events, Amara realized that the initial conflict was merely the tip of the iceberg. The systemic prejudices and biases that she encountered were deeply ingrained, requiring persistent effort and unwavering determination to overcome. She knew that her position afforded her a unique platform to effect change, but it also made her a target for those resistant to progress. The following morning, Amara arrived at the office with a clear plan in mind. The meeting with Laura and James had been productive, outlining strategies to address the ongoing issues and reinforce the company's commitment to the community. They discussed the steps to file the formal complaint against Officer Daniels, ensuring that all evidence and documentation were meticulously organized. We need to present a solid case, Laura emphasized, her eyes scanning the documents on the table. Officer Daniels has a history of aggressive behavior, and his interactions with our employees clearly indicate a pattern of harassment. James interjected, "From a PR perspective, we should highlight these incidents without sounding accusatory. It's about showcasing our dedication to fairness and equality, not just protecting our company's interests." Amara nodded, appreciating their insights. "Agreed. We'll need to be transparent and proactive in our communications. Let's also consider reaching out to other organizations that have faced similar challenges. Building a coalition could strengthen our position." As the day unfolded, Amara found herself inundated with meetings, calls, and emails. The weight of her responsibilities pressed down on her, but she remained steadfast, her resolve unshaken. She knew that the road ahead would be arduous, but she was determined to see it through. During a brief lunch break, Amara decided to visit one of her favorite local spots, a small community center where she often volunteered. It was a place where she could connect with the grassroots level of the community, away from the corporate facade. As she entered the center, the familiar sounds of children playing and the aroma of homemade meals greeted her, offering a sense of comfort and familiarity. She approached the front desk, where Maria, the center's director, looked up with a warm smile. "Amara, it's great to see you. How can I help today?" Amara returned the smile, her eyes scanning the room filled with vibrant activity. "Hi Maria, I wanted to check in and see how things are going. Any new initiatives or concerns?" Maria's expression turned thoughtful. "Actually, yes. There's been some unease among the staff about the recent protests and the increased police presence around town. Some are worried about potential repercussions, especially those involved in our advocacy programs." Amara placed a reassuring hand on Maria's shoulder. "I understand their concerns. We're taking steps to address these issues at Reynolds Associates, and I'm committed to ensuring that our partnership with the community remains strong and supportive. Let's work together to create a safe and open environment here." Maria nodded appreciatively. "Thank you, Amara. Your support means a lot to us. We've been considering organizing workshops and open forums to foster better communication and understanding. Perhaps you could lend your expertise or even speak at one of the events." Amara considered the suggestion, feeling a surge of determination. "I'd be honored to help. Let's schedule a workshop focused on dialogue and mutual respect. It's essential that we bridge these gaps and build a united community." As she left the community center, Amara felt a renewed sense of purpose. These interactions underscored the importance of her role, not just as a CEO, but as a leader committed to fostering unity and understanding. Yet the underlying tensions persisted, reminding her that the path to true change was neither straightforward nor easy. Later that afternoon, as Amara reviewed the latest updates on Officer Daniels' harassment complaints, her phone buzzed with an urgent notification. "Meeting rescheduled to 4 p.m. Councilman Harris requests your presence at the City Hall." She glanced at the clock, realizing she had only a couple of hours before the meeting. Taking a deep breath, she stood and made her way to the elevator, her mind racing with the day's developments. City Hall was a grand building, its marble facade gleaming in the afternoon sun. As Amara entered the expansive lobby, she was greeted by the sight of Councilman Harris waiting for her, his expression serious yet welcoming. "Amara, thank you for coming," he greeted, extending his hand. "Please, have a seat." She took a seat opposite him, her posture poised. "Of course, Councilman. What's the matter?" Harris leaned forward, his eyes reflecting a deep concern. "I wanted to discuss the recent complaints against Officer Daniels and the broader implications for your company and the community. It's becoming clear that this issue is more significant than we initially thought." Amara nodded, her mind already formulating strategies. "I agree. We need to address this comprehensively to prevent further escalation and maintain the trust we've built within the community." Harris sighed, running a hand through his hair. "There's also increasing pressure from certain factions within the police department. They view your company's involvement in community initiatives as interference, and Officer Daniels is at the forefront of this opposition. It's not just about harassment anymore. It's about challenging the very framework of your community engagement." Amara felt a chill run down her spine. Challenging the framework. What exactly do you mean? Harris took a deep breath. "There are elements within the department that are resistant to change, to the progressive initiatives you've been advocating for. They see your efforts as a threat to the status quo, and Daniels is using his position to undermine your influence and intimidate others who support your initiatives." Amara's frustration simmered beneath her calm exterior. "This is precisely why we need to double down on our efforts. We can't let a few individuals derail the progress we've made. We need to showcase the positive impact of our initiatives and counteract the negative narratives being spread." Harris nodded in agreement. "Absolutely. I recommend we increase our collaboration with other community leaders and organizations. Building a broader coalition will help counterbalance the resistance we're facing. Additionally, we should consider legal avenues to protect our interests and those of the community." Amara felt a surge of determination. "I'm ready to take whatever steps are necessary. We've come too far to back down now." Harris offered a reassuring smile. "I knew I could count on you, Amara. Together, we can navigate these challenges and continue to drive meaningful change." As the meeting concluded, Amara left City Hall with a clear sense of purpose. The initial conflict had now evolved into a broader struggle against systemic resistance, underscoring the complexities of her role. She knew that the road ahead would be fraught with obstacles, but her commitment to her community and her unwavering resolve fortified her spirit. Back at the office, Amara convened a quick meeting with Laura and James, sharing the updates from Councilman Harris. "We need to expand our support network," she stated firmly. "Let's reach out to other community leaders and organizations. We need a united front to counteract the negative narratives and reinforce our commitment to positive change." Laura nodded, her analytical mind already working on the logistics. "I'll start identifying potential allies and setting up meetings. We should also gather more evidence on Officer Daniels' pattern of behavior to strengthen our case." James added, "From a PR standpoint, we should highlight the positive outcomes of our initiatives and perhaps share testimonials from those who have benefited from our support. Personal stories can be powerful in shifting public perception." Amara smiled appreciatively. "Excellent. Let's also consider hosting joint events with other organizations to showcase our collaborative efforts. Transparency and unity are key." As the day drew to a close, Amara reflected on the mounting challenges. Each interaction, each meeting, and each conversation added layers to the conflict she was navigating. The subtle microaggressions and overt acts of discrimination she and her company faced were manifestations of deeper societal issues, ones that required persistent effort and strategic action to overcome. She knew that maintaining her composure was essential, not just for her own sake, but for the sake of those who looked up to her as a leader and a symbol of progress. The internal struggle between anger and professionalism was a constant battle, but she remained steadfast, channeling her emotions into constructive actions. As she prepared to leave the office, her phone buzzed with another message. "Urgent meeting at the community center. Need your presence. Maria." Amara's heart skipped a beat. She quickly made her way to the community center, where Maria was waiting, her expression grave. "Amara, thank you for coming so quickly," Maria greeted her, gesturing for her to sit. "What's going on, Maria?" Maria took a deep breath, her eyes filled with concern. "There's been an incident during one of our workshops. A group of individuals attempted to disrupt the session, making derogatory remarks and questioning our intentions. It was unsettling, and some of the participants felt intimidated." Amara felt a surge of frustration. "Were the perpetrators identified? Did you capture any footage?" Maria shook her head. "No, it happened too quickly. We've increased security, but it's clear that there are those who are determined to undermine our efforts." Amara leaned forward, her voice steady. "We need to document this and report it to the authorities. It's another instance of the challenges we're facing. Let's ensure that everyone feels safe and supported here." Maria nodded, a hint of relief in her eyes. "I'll handle the reporting and reinforce the security measures." "Thank you, Amara." As she left the community center, Amara couldn't help but feel the weight of the mounting conflicts. Each day brought new challenges, testing her resilience and commitment to her mission. Yet, she refused to let the prejudice and biases erode her determination. Instead, she used them as fuel to drive her efforts forward, knowing that the path to true equality and understanding was paved with perseverance and unwavering resolve. Walking through the bustling streets of Brookhaven, Amara felt a sense of solidarity with the community she served. Despite the obstacles, she saw glimpses of hope and resilience in the faces around her. She knew that the journey ahead would require not just her leadership, but the collective effort of many who shared her vision for a more just and inclusive society. As evening descended, Amara returned to her apartment, the city lights now shimmering against the darkening sky. She sat by the window once more, reflecting on the day's events and the challenges that lay ahead. The initial conflict had blossomed into a broader struggle, highlighting the pervasive prejudices and systemic biases that still plagued Brookhaven. Yet, within that struggle, she found strength and purpose. Amara Reynolds was not just a CEO, she was a catalyst for change, a leader committed to dismantling the barriers that divided her community. The road ahead was uncertain, but her resolve remained unshaken. With each step forward, she was not only fighting for her company, but also for the dignity and respect of every individual in Brookhaven. As she prepared for the next day's challenges, Amara reminded herself of Harold's words. True strength lies in resilience and compassion. It was a mantra that had guided her through countless obstacles, and it would continue to do so as she faced the complexities of her role with unwavering determination. The night was quiet, but Amara's mind was anything but. She knew that the initial conflict was just the beginning of a deeper, more intricate battle against systemic injustices. Yet, she felt a flicker of hope, knowing that with each challenge, she was one step closer to fostering a community built on mutual respect and understanding. The morning sun cast long shadows across Brookhaven as Amara Reynolds arrived at Reynolds Associates, her steps measured and purposeful. The events of the past weeks weighed heavily on her mind, but her demeanor remained composed. Today was different, though. A sense of unease lingered in the air, a premonition of the storm brewing on the horizon. As she entered the office, the usual bustle of activity seemed subdued, employees exchanging wary glances and hushed conversations. Amara's heart quickened as she sensed the undercurrent of tension. She made her way to her office, nodding to Elena, who stood by her desk with a concerned expression. "Amara, we have a situation," Elena began, her voice low. "Officer Daniels is here again. He insists on speaking with you directly." Amara felt a chill run down her spine. "What is it this time?" Elena shook her head. "He claims to have new evidence regarding the protest incident. He wants to discuss it in person." Taking a deep breath, Amara steadied herself. "All right, I'll go meet him. Make sure security is informed." Minutes later, Amara sat in the sleek, modern conference room of Reynolds Associates, waiting for Officer Daniels. The room was spacious, with floor-to-ceiling windows, offering a panoramic view of the city below. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation as she reviewed her notes, preparing for whatever confrontation lay ahead. The door swung open, and Officer Daniels entered, his posture rigid and his expression stern. He was impeccably dressed in his uniform, but there was an edge to his demeanor that Amara couldn't quite place. As he approached the table, his eyes met hers with a mix of authority and disdain. "Ms. Reynolds?" he began, his tone clipped. "Thank you for meeting with me." Amara maintained her composure, nodding politely. "Of course, Officer Daniels. How can I assist you today?" Daniels took a seat across from her, placing a thick folder on the table between them. "We've conducted a more thorough investigation into the protest incident. Our findings suggest that there were elements within your company that may have instigated the unrest." Amara's eyes narrowed slightly, sensing the implication behind his words. "I find that hard to believe. Officer Daniels Reynolds Associates has always advocated for peaceful dialogue and community support." Daniels leaned forward, his gaze unwavering. "We've received anonymous tips indicating that certain employees were involved in coordinating the protest, pushing it beyond its original scope. We need to determine if there's any merit to these claims." Amara felt a surge of frustration, but kept her voice steady. "I assure you, any community initiatives we support are for the betterment of Brookhaven. If there are individuals acting independently, we have no control over their actions." Daniels opened the folder, revealing a series of photographs and documents. "These images show several of your employees engaging with agitators, encouraging them to escalate their demands. It paints a picture of intentional provocation." Amara scanned the materials, her mind racing. "These are taken out of context. Our employees are committed to fostering positive change, not inciting violence." Daniels's expression remained impassive. We believe there's a connection between your company's initiatives and the unrest. We need your cooperation to clarify these relationships and identify any potential wrongdoing." Amara felt the room closing in around her, the weight of systemic bias pressing down. "Officer Daniels, I expect a thorough and unbiased investigation. If there are any actions that contradict our mission, they should be addressed directly and transparently." Daniels stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor with a harsh sound. "Ms. Reynolds, we take these matters very seriously. Failure to cooperate will result in further action, including potential legal consequences for your company." Before Amara could respond, the door burst open, and a group of uniformed officers entered, surrounding the conference room. At their forefront was Sergeant Linda Thompson, a stern-faced woman with a no-nonsense attitude. "Daniels, what is the meaning of this?" Thompson demanded, her eyes flitting between Daniels and Amara. Daniels straightened, attempting to maintain his authority. "We have reason to believe that Reynolds Associates is involved in orchestrating civil unrest within Brookhaven. We need to conduct a full search of your premises and seize any evidence related to these allegations." Amara's mind raced as the officers began to move in, their actions swift and methodical. "This is absurd, you have no warrant," she protested, standing up to confront them. Thompson raised a hand, signaling for silence. "Ms. Reynolds, Officer Daniels has the necessary authorization for this search. We're here to ensure public safety and address any threats to the community." Amara felt a surge of helplessness as the officers began to sift through her office, rifling through documents and personal items with blatant disregard for privacy. Her heart pounded, a mix of fear and anger simmering beneath her calm exterior. As the search continued, Amara noticed a young employee, Malik, watching from the doorway with wide eyes. His presence was a stark reminder of the vulnerable positions her team often found themselves in. She approached him, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "It's okay, Malik. This isn't your fault." Malik shook his head, tears welling in his eyes. "I just want to help, but I didn't know." Amara squeezed his shoulder gently. "I know we're all in this together. Stay strong." Meanwhile, Daniels continued his search, pulling out file after file. "We found some communications between your employees and known agitators. This clearly shows intent to disrupt public order." Amara felt a knot tighten in her throat. "These are personal conversations, taken out of context. My employees are dedicated professionals who believe in peaceful advocacy." Thompson stepped forward, her expression cold. "Ms. Reynolds, the evidence suggests otherwise. We need to take immediate action to prevent further disturbances." Amara's mind raced, torn between maintaining her composure and fighting back against the blatant injustice. She knew that any visible sign of weakness could be exploited. But internally, she was burning with the need to stand up against the systemic biases that sought to undermine her. Before she could respond, the room filled with the sound of her phone buzzing on the conference table. Daniels picked it up, glancing at the screen before tucking it away. "Excuse me," he said, a hint of irritation in his voice. "I need to take this call." He stepped out of the room, leaving Amara and Thompson alone with the other officers. The silence was heavy, the tension palpable. Amara took a deep breath, her mind racing through possible strategies to address the escalating situation. "Ms. Reynolds," Thompson began, her tone laced with skepticism. "We're considering pressing charges for incitement and obstruction of justice. Your cooperation at this point would be beneficial." Amara stood tall, her voice firm despite the turmoil inside. "I will cooperate fully with any legitimate investigation. However, these actions are unjust and based on unfounded assumptions. I expect this to be handled with the utmost integrity and fairness." Thompson's eyes narrowed. "We will see, Ms. Reynolds. The court will decide." As the officers began to leave, Amara was left alone with her thoughts, the weight of the situation pressing down on her. She felt a mixture of anger and determination bubbling beneath her calm exterior. This was more than just an attack on her company. It was an attempt to silence her voice and undermine her efforts to bring about positive change. Later that evening, Amara convened an emergency meeting with her legal team and trusted allies, including Councilman Harris and Laura Bennett. The room was filled with urgency as they strategized their next steps. "We need to file an immediate appeal against the search and any charges being considered," Laura stated, her eyes scanning the documents spread across the table. "This is a clear case of harassment and misuse of power by Officer Daniels." Councilman Harris nodded in agreement. "We should also reach out to civil rights organizations and the media to shed light on this blatant injustice. Public opinion can be a powerful tool in countering these unfounded allegations." Amara leaned forward, her resolve solidifying. "We must stand firm and show that we will not be intimidated by systemic bias. Our commitment to the community is unwavering, and we will fight to protect our reputation and the integrity of our work." James Carter, the head of PR, interjected with a strategic proposal. "We should prepare a public statement that addresses the situation head-on, emphasizing our dedication to peaceful advocacy and transparency. Additionally, we can organize a press conference to present our side of the story and call for accountability." Amara nodded thoughtfully. "Good idea. Let's also ensure that our employees are supported and informed throughout this ordeal. Malik and the rest of the team need to know that they're not alone." As the meeting concluded, Amara felt a surge of determination. She knew that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but her internal strength and the support of her allies fortified her resolve. This was a pivotal moment, a test of her leadership and her commitment to justice. The following day, the media frenzy intensified as news of the unjust search and the allegations against Reynolds Associates spread across Brookhaven. Reporters flocked to her office, cameras flashing and microphones thrust toward her. Amara stood at the front, her expression composed yet resolute as she addressed the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming today. Reynolds Associates is facing baseless allegations and unwarranted scrutiny. Our commitment to fostering positive change in Brookhaven remains steadfast, and we will not be deterred by these unfounded claims. We are cooperating fully with the investigation and are confident that the truth will prevail." Her words were met with a mix of support and skepticism, the divided public opinion reflecting the broader societal tensions. As she concluded her statement, a sudden commotion erupted at the back of the room. A group of protesters had gathered outside, chanting and holding signs that questioned her motives and the legitimacy of her company's actions. Amara felt a familiar knot of frustration tighten in her stomach. "We need to address this," she said, turning to Councilman Harris and Laura. "Let's ensure that our message of unity and progress is heard clearly." As the day wore on, the situation continued to escalate. Officer Daniels remained a looming presence, his actions further cementing his role as the antagonist in Amara's struggle. The legal battles, the media scrutiny, and the community tensions created a maelstrom of conflict that threatened to overwhelm her. That night, as Amara sat in her office, the city lights twinkling outside her window, she reflected on the mounting challenges. Her phone buzzed with another urgent message. "Emergency meeting at the community center. Details inside." Maria. With a deep breath, she prepared herself for what lay ahead, knowing that the next steps would be crucial in determining the outcome of this intense conflict. The stakes were higher than ever, and the battle against systemic injustice was reaching its boiling point. Amara stood, her resolve unshaken. It was time to take a stand, to confront the biases and prejudices that sought to undermine her mission. She was no longer willing to remain a silent figure in the face of oppression. The moment of reckoning was approaching, and she was ready to face it head-on. The air in Brookhaven was thick with anticipation. As the days leading up to the town hall meeting approached, Amara Reynolds felt the weight of the entire community's expectations pressing down on her. But she remained steadfast. Her office had become a war room, bustling with strategists, legal advisors, and public relations experts, all working tirelessly to prepare for the impending confrontation. On a particularly tense Wednesday morning, Amara arrived at Reynolds Associates to find the office in a state of heightened alert. Security measures had been doubled, with additional guards stationed at every entrance and surveillance cameras meticulously monitoring every corner. The atmosphere was electric, charged with the unspoken fear of what might unfold. As she stepped into her office, Elena approached her with a stack of urgent reports. "Amara, you need to see this," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Officer Daniels has filed a formal complaint against you, alleging that you've been interfering with law enforcement activities and inciting unrest through your community initiatives." Amara felt a chill run down her spine. This was the culmination of Officer Daniels' relentless campaign to undermine her. How is this possible? We've always operated within the law and maintained transparency in all our initiatives. Elena shook her head, her eyes wide with concern. That's not all. There are witnesses claiming that you directly ordered your employees to engage with protesters in ways that escalated tensions. It's a smear campaign, Amara. Someone's orchestrating this from the inside. Amara took a deep breath, her mind racing. We need to respond immediately, Laura. Set up an emergency meeting with our legal team, James. Prepare a statement addressing these false allegations. We can't let this go unchecked. As the day progressed, the office became a hive of activity. Laura Bennett pored over the complaint, her expression grim. These allegations are completely unfounded. We have all the documentation and records to prove our compliance and commitment to peaceful advocacy. We need to gather every piece of evidence that counters these claims. James Carter, the head of PR, worked feverishly to draft a public statement. We need to control the narrative before it spirals out of control. Highlight our community initiatives, showcase testimonials from those we've helped, and unequivocally deny these baseless accusations. Amara moved from one meeting to another, her resolve unshaken despite the mounting pressure. She knew that the stakes were higher than ever. This was not just about protecting her company, but about standing up against systemic corruption and bias that sought to silence her voice. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Amara received an unexpected call. The caller ID read, "Unknown," but she answered without hesitation. Amara Reynolds speaking. A voice, muffled and urgent, spoke on the other end. "Ms. Reynolds, this is Detective Grant. I have information that could help your case against Officer Daniels. Can we meet?" Amara's heart leapt with a mix of hope and caution. "Yes, Detective Grant. Where should we meet?" "Meet me at the old library at midnight. There's something you need to see. Be careful." The call ended abruptly, leaving Amara with a sense of anticipation. Detective Grant had been a hesitant ally, someone who had only recently come forward with his own experiences of Officer Daniels' misconduct. This meeting could be the breakthrough they desperately needed. As midnight approached, Amara donned a discreet outfit and made her way to the old library. The building stood silent and imposing against the night sky, its windows dark and unwelcoming. She approached the entrance cautiously, her senses heightened. Inside, the library was eerily quiet, the scent of aged paper and dust hanging in the air. She navigated through the dimly lit corridors until she reached a secluded reading room. Detective Grant was already there, his expression tense. "Thank you for coming, Detective," Amara greeted him, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Grant nodded, handing her a USB drive. "What I've found is damning. Officer Daniels has been colluding with certain members of the police department to sabotage your initiatives. There are emails, recorded conversations, and financial records that prove his intent to disrupt your efforts and tarnish your reputation." Amara took the USB drive, her hands steady. "This is incredible. How did you come across this information?" Grant glanced around nervously before speaking. "I've been investigating internal corruption within the department for years. Daniels is just one of many officers involved in these unethical practices. When I saw the pattern emerging with your case, I knew I had to help." Amara felt a surge of determination. "This could turn the tide in our favor. We need to present this evidence to Laura and take immediate legal action." Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed through the silent library. Amara and Grant exchanged a worried glance as Officer Daniels and two other uniformed officers entered the room, their expressions cold and hostile. "Detective Grant, what is the meaning of this?" Daniels demanded, his voice dripping with contempt. Grant stood up, clutching the USB drive tightly. "I thought you'd like to see the evidence you've been hiding, Daniels." Daniels sneered, advancing towards them. "You think you can intimidate me, Grant? This ends now." Amara stepped forward, her voice firm. "Enough, Officer Daniels. You have no right to interfere with this investigation. Leave us alone." Daniels laughed mockingly. "You're out of your league, Miss Reynolds. Don't forget who holds the power here." Before anyone could react, one of the officers lunged towards Grant, attempting to seize the USB drive. Amara reacted swiftly, pulling Grant back and pushing Daniels aside. "Stop! You're not going to take that from him." A scuffle ensued, the room erupting into chaos. Bookshelves toppled, papers flew everywhere, and the sound of fists meeting flesh filled the air. Amara fought to maintain control, her mind focused on protecting Grant and ensuring the evidence remained safe. In the midst of the chaos, Amara realized the severity of the situation. Officer Daniels and his accomplices were not just trying to discredit her, they were actively trying to silence her and sabotage her efforts. The stakes had never been higher. Summoning her inner strength, Amara pushed through the fray, managing to wrestle the USB drive from Daniels' grasp. "This ends now," she declared, holding the drive aloft. "Your corruption and attempts to undermine justice will not go unnoticed." Daniels lunged at her once more, but before he could make contact, a group of employees from Reynolds Associates, alerted by the commotion, burst into the library. Led by Councilman Harris, they quickly intervened, pulling Daniels and his officers away. "Enough!" Harris shouted, his authoritative voice cutting through the chaos. "Officer Daniels, you're under arrest for obstruction of justice and attempted theft of evidence." As the officers were restrained, the room fell into stunned silence. Amara stood amidst the wreckage, her chest heaving with exertion, but her spirit unbroken. Detective Grant approached her, a look of relief and admiration in his eyes. "You did it, Amara," he said softly. "You stood up against the corruption." Amara nodded, her gaze fixed on Daniels being led away in handcuffs. "We did it, together." As the immediate danger subsided, the gravity of what had just transpired began to sink in. This confrontation was the tipping point, a definitive moment that would set the course for the battles to come. The evidence they had secured would not only expose Officer Daniels, but also shed light on the deeper systemic issues within the Brookhaven Police Department. Amara felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was more than just a fight for her company. It was a fight for justice, for accountability, and for the community she had dedicated her life to serving. The path ahead was uncertain, but she was no longer alone. With her allies by her side and the truth on their side, she was ready to take decisive action. As she and Grant left the library, the first rays of dawn began to break over Brookhaven, symbolizing a new beginning. The city that had once seemed indifferent now buzzed with the promise of change. The climax of their struggle was imminent, and Amara Reynolds was prepared to lead the charge.